welcome back to lesson 2 of module 6. We're going to be talking about testing again. This is another short primer. We're going to go through some more concepts, and then in the remainder of this module we're going to push on, put things into action and start and do some optimization. But for now I want everybody to understand something. So a quick recap. We've in the preceding modules built an awesome account structure. In the last lesson we looked at the principles of objectives and testing, and so we have a good understanding of what they are now. We're going to look at a little more detail about testing now, because this bit is so important. If you understand why we test and why we test the way that we test, you are light years ahead of everybody else, and you can really focus on making the right decisions for the right reasons at the right times. And that's how we win the AdWords game. It's not by being random. It's not by taking a look every now and again and making a few tweaks. It's about right decision, right reason, right time. And that's where we're going. So let's have a look at the first type of test that we do in AdWords a lot. It's called a before-after test. Before and after because there is a period before we have a decision made. On a particular date we make a decision, and then we have a period after that decision. And things are either better against our goal horizon or they're worse. And that's what we're interested in, a before and after test. And essentially what we're trying to say is we made a change to help achieve our objective. It was a test. It's one of our tests that we said before. We've made a test to do something we think is going to move us closer to our goal horizon. Remember our goal horizon, our performance target by a given date. So we've said, let's imagine the timeline. We're running AdWords through February. 1st of March, we make a change. We make some decisions that say, I want to achieve my goal horizon, so here are the steps that I'm taking to do that. We then run the campaign during March. Was March better against our key performance metrics than February? Simple. That's the principle of before and after test. Now, we need to remember that there are external influences in this. You can't always directly compare before and after. You have to look a little bit deeper at the data. So, what happens if suddenly a big new competitor enters your market? That can change the competitive playing field. If they come in with the big budget, big spends, and suddenly ad positions start changing all over the place, that's an influence you can't control. What if you sell something, if you sell Christmas trees, you're not going to be selling very many in January. Depends on the length of the test period. You can get variability over periods of time. Obviously, longer periods, you tend to get more stability. What if AdWords changes something in the meantime? AdWords changes over 250 times a year. There's a pretty good chance that while you're running a test, something will change. It might not be something that materially affects your test, but that's what we'll find out. So when do we use before and after the tests? Essentially, we use them pretty much all the time. The only time that we don't really use them is when we're ad testing. And we're going to look at ad testing in a moment. So, for example, if we add a keyword, that's a really difficult thing to test. Simultaneously, we have to test that before and after. We have a campaign before we added it, we have a campaign after we added it. What difference did adding that keyword make? If we add negative keywords to a campaign, does that make it better? Does that make it worse? If we change our bids, all these kind of things we can only change on a before and after basis. There is a slight exception to that, and I'm going to cover it. So before anybody shoots me and tells me I'm not quite right, you'll see what I've got coming up. Now, when it comes to ads, we use what's called a split test, which is an A/B test. Now, we can also use this for landing page testing, and it's essentially saying, I am going to send a portion of my visitors, show them one ad, show visit number 1 one ad, visit number 2 a different ad, visit number 3 potentially a different one. You can simultaneously test many ads at once. The point is, it's at the same time. You have no idea which visitor is seeing which ad. It's random, it's controlled, and it allows you to truly test like-for-like performance. And we mentioned this concept in the previous video. We're looking for results in our testing that are statistically significant. So ad testing we're going to do with simultaneous testing. So just to recap what we've just said, anything apart from ads we're going to test on a before and after basis. Ads, we're going to test on a split test basis. Landing pages, if you are split testing landing pages, we can do on a simultaneous basis as well. But not everybody has enough traffic to split test landing pages. There is a quick feature just to mention called Experiments in AdWords that allows you to simultaneously test elements other than ads, but including ads in AdWords. You can test keywords, ad groups, and all sorts of things. It's used really infrequently. In theory, it's a really good tool. In reality, it's far underutilized because it's just a bit clunky and you're handing over an element of control to Google that you may not wish to do. So if anybody thinks, you're ignoring that, I'm not ignoring it. I know it's there. We're not going to be focusing on this training. The landing pages, we can do simultaneous tests, and there are two different ways we can do this. So I'm just going to make everybody aware of these now. We can, in our ads, have one ad with one destination URL, so destination URL for the web page that we're going to send traffic to. We can then use a tool like Unbound or Lead Pages or Neelio A/B testing for WordPress if you're a WordPress user. All of these tools allow you to split test landing pages, and what they do is when we click on a link, so yoursite.com/landing, Unbound and Lead Pages and Neelio A/B testing will decide which page to show, and they will handle a page rotation to show more than one version. That's fine. That can work absolutely fine. It's a great way of doing it. From an AdWords perspective, you don't differentiate between the pages. However, there is a slight downside to that in that some of your data is then in your landing page tool and some of it is in AdWords. So you have a little bit of work to do to piece the two together. You can, though, just simply create two different pages and in your AdWords account have two identical ads but with different destination URLs. Simple as that. So when you're split testing in AdWords, AdWords will show ad number 1 with one destination URL on it half the time, ad number 2 with the second destination URL on it the other half of the time. All the data then stays within AdWords. So that is a really easy way to do this, and you don't need any clever tools to do that. Anything where you can build a web page, you can do it that way. So, final slide for this brief lesson, testing objectives. I want to make this really clear because it's important. Let's think about what we're trying to achieve. We're trying to get to our goal horizon, our target objective, our target measure by our target date. The way we get there fastest is by completing as many tests as possible as we can to statistical significance. We want reliable data and have as many of those tests have a positive impact as possible. So it's a question of how many tests can we do and how many do we get right? That's what we're trying to determine. Those accounts that will be most successful will be those who get this right. Run lots of tests as quickly as possible and get, if you get 80% of those tests have a positive impact on your account, you can imagine the acceleration and the performance improvements you can get compared to somebody else who's testing much slower, who doesn't understand statistics and will be making occasional, infrequent, ad hoc decisions. You will accelerate away from them so much faster. That's why this is important, and that's what we're going to build on into the how we do this in the remainder of this module. Bye for now.